Now, reforming Nigeria's tax system and raising taxes are supposed to be the cornerstone of President Tinubu's renewed hope agenda and attempts to achieve sustainable economic growth and development. He says tax reform is the bedrock of his vision for increasing public revenue, a move that would provide the resources the administration hopes would deliver on education, healthcare, infrastructure and security. And to this effect, the president has sent 4 tax reform bills to the National Assembly. But one in particular, the proposed amendment to the distribution of revenue from VAT, has drawn fierce opposition from northern Nigeria, whose leaders, including politicians and traditional rulers, say the proposed reform is tilted against their region. They say that as a result of insecurity, the North is not economically viable and that the proposed VAT allocation formula would disadvantage such an economically fragile region. The National Economic Council and state governors have urged President Tinubu to withdraw the bills for further consultation. Well, the president is adamant that the legislative process should continue. Well, one of the lawmakers who supports the proposed tax reform bill is the NNPP chieftain and 4th-term member of the House of Representatives, Abdulmumin Jibrin. He's a former chairman of the House Committee on Finance, Appropriations, Transport and Foreign Affairs, and is currently chairman of the House Committee on Housing and Habitat. And he joins me now in the studio. How nice to see you again.
It's such a pleasure coming back to the studio, Charles.
Well, absolutely, because, I mean, to be fair, you've been away for an exceedingly long time, and people have been wondering where you've been and what you've been up to.
Well, I don't know if I should be celebrating about it or I should be sad, because I get that question practically everywhere I go. But I keep saying I have been around. I've been in the House, doing my job, chairing the House Committee on Housing. Probably this is what I keep saying. There's a change of approach in how I conduct my business. Maybe I talk less now and try as much as I can to stay out of trouble.
So every time you talk, there's potential trouble, is there? But I mean, you mentioned the fact that you've been in the House doing the work that you were elected to do. What's your assessment of the performance of that House, briefly, before we start talking about taxes?
Well, for me, I believe that the House has done pretty well. We've always said that there is no generally agreed indices of measuring the success of the House, but as a matter of tradition, you look at the basic functions of the House, lawmaking, oversight, of course, and when you come down a bit to the administrative aspect, you look at the issue of stability of the House, and if you take that into context, you'll be able to say the House has done pretty well, and of course, the Speaker of the House of Representatives should be commended. He's done very well to hold the House as one, to manage the House properly. Bills are being passed, motions are being passed, voices are being heard, and I believe it will only get better.
It's always astonishing when you members of the House of the House or the National Assembly want to be commended or patted on the back for the job that you're actually elected to do, that you came out to do. I mean, the fact that, you know, the Speaker of the House is holding, I mean, that's his job, to hold it together. So there shouldn't be any special commendation for that. Nevertheless, you have made some good points there, because it does appear to be a busy period for the National Assembly. As you said, lots of bills, you know, there's the budget, that's going through and so on. And of course, the very controversial bill, tax reform bill, which is one of the reasons why you're here. How divisive has this issue been in the House of Representatives, this question of tax reform?
You've also already created an impression about the bill.
Well, I'm asking
you
you a
didn't
question,
only
then.
say controversial, you said very
Well, it is controversial.
Of course, it's normal to be divided over issues, particularly in the National Assembly. We've come from different constituency, different states, different regions. We've had a different kind of upbringing, outlook, understanding, experiences, and of course, knowledge of the issues at stake. So you might see a bit of sharp divide, but we have our own way of coming together because we have our own internal system, how things are being done, our rules and everything will always guide the process.
But what are the main concerns and reservations that critics of these bills have?
Okay, as I was just saying, there's a bit of the sentiment of course, the northern part of the country is against the bill, but that's not the fact. The interesting thing is that we have people who are not comfortable with the bill in the northern part of the country, in the southern part of the country, all together. And we have people who are in support of the bill from both the northern part of the country
and you're in support of the
and
bill.
the southern part of the country.
Right.
I, of course, am in support of the bill with my own advice to those who disagree on how to go about it. But I think what should be in the heart of the conversation is facts. What I've always said to people in all the conversations that I've had, I've always been a pragmatic person and open in my conversation. And at my level, when you bring an issue to me, put the facts before me. Let this fact speaks, because this is an open issue. If you say the bill is against the North, you put the facts. You don't just tell me, okay, it's against the North. How is it against
but
the North?
You've been discussing it in the National
If it is
Assembly.
pro the North,
Right.
you will tell me how is it pro the North.
Right.
Now, I tell you this. I've read the bill. And I would advise you, anybody who comes here to discuss the bill, the first question you should ask him is that, have you read the bills?
Right.
What I have come to understand, to discover is that, look, 99% of the people who hold strong opinion against the bill haven't even read the bill, because I've had conversation with people since
That includes lawmakers in the National Assembly?
Well, including lawmakers in the National Assembly, they probably haven't read the
Because
bill.
quite a few of them
Now, if you
opposed.
read the context, what is the controversial clause? I am actually happy that you said some clause are controversial. Now, the chunk of the bill, and that has always been my fear, they're beautiful. There's nothing wrong about tax reforms. And it takes a lot of courage for someone, particularly the present chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue, to be able to initiate that process and put it forward, because it's been overdue. But you see, the point that became controversial, it's the issue of derivation.
Yeah.
Now, you look
The
at
distribution
the
of
historical
VAT revenue,
pattern.
basically.
Let me tell you this. For years in the National Assembly, I was a former chairman finance. I've always been against the previous system where consumption is being done at destination and the proceeds is being recorded at the headquarters, registered headquarters of the company that has a product or whatsoever. Now, that system, we were against it. And even a lot of Northerners were against that particular system because we felt it is unfair. Now you have a situation where a reform has come. Before that, River State went to court and they've gotten judgment. They went to High Court, Federal High Court got judgment, went to Appeal Court, got a judgment that VAT should be administered by state. Now, if the federal government decide to implement or they go to Supreme Court and they get judgment again, it is going to be catastrophic for a lot of states in Nigeria. So what the tax reform has done now is to base it on consumption. Now, having based it on consumption, what became controversial was that clause of saying 60% of what is raised based on consumption should be based on derivation. That means it's going to go back to where it is generated. Now, what I keep telling people is that it is negotiable because the issue has become very serious issue. And if you look at the history of this country, once you have that kind of issue at the national level, you must sit and discuss. You must sit and negotiate. You must sit and dialogue.
So it's not written in stone.
Yes, because the issue will never go away.
Right.
Now, in my own understanding, because when I analyze the issue, I look at the entire ecosystem of the issue. I don't just look at just the provisions and the rest. You may have a situation where we decide to throw away the bill. Two things would have lost. One, all the good provisions in the bill would have lost it. Secondly, would have lost the advantage of negotiating now and bringing the matter to a permanent conclusion because the matter will not die. Now, if you throw it away and the states decide to go, particularly River State, to Supreme Court and they get their judgment, what will you do? The implication is that the present system will be retained.
Right.
Just to give you figures, I don't want to go into details, but let me give you an example of the figure. This particular month, the collection based on the old system, Lagos State has 207 billion collected, and Lagos State is going home with about 42% of the total VAT amount collected. So if you have a Supreme Court judgment, which may likely be the case because it's all the basis for them to pass the judgment that it should be the state, it means that nothing will change in the present. Okay. Nothing will change. Charles, nothing will change in the present system. So I believe that some of us that hold this opinion, we love the North more than even the people who are saying, because when you look at the argument, all we are trying to do is to open up the conversation space. Right. Let's look at these things clearly. I think let's be able to discuss and find a way out of it.
I think that point has been made, but let's just be clear on, because I think you've made some very interesting points there, and some of it is for people to understand where things are now and what this reform bill is trying to do. So let me just clear the fact that VAT is derived from consumption, and 70% of consumption occurs outside the state that currently receives the highest proceeds from VAT, which you mentioned there, which is Lagos, followed by Rivers and then the FCT of Abuja. As you said, Lagos alone receives 42%. That was the last figure from last month's proceeds. That is followed by Rivers State, which got 16%, and the FCT, which received 10%. And the reason is because, as you said, revenue-generating companies are headquartered in these states. MTN, for instance, which is the leading telecoms provider, contributes the highest VAT to Lagos, despite the fact that the services that MTN provides are used across Nigeria. So that clearly is unfair. Simply because it's headquartered in Lagos, Lagos collects the VAT, whereas everybody across Nigeria uses MTN, so why should Lagos be the one doing that? So what people want to know is how this new proposed reform is going to change that imbalance. That's really the knob of it, isn't it? That's the concern, that if you're talking about reform, that means you want to move away from that headquartered thing. Yeah. But the North is still saying that the bill is still suggesting that 60% will still go to the states from where the VAT is derived, which means that it will still place them at a disadvantage, because their argument is that they are economically not viable at the moment, not as a result of their fault, but because of insecurity.
Okay, that's fine. Now, when you look at the collections, that's why I said the conversation should be based on facts. When you look at the collections, you know, it will interest you. And I've been having conversations with a lot of members, with a lot of stakeholders. And it amazes me because they actually thought the North is at the bottom of the consumption.
thing.
Yeah. The North is not at the bottom. Cross River State is at the bottom. Cross River State is at the bottom of the collection, followed by Imo State. So the point that I'm trying to make is that we have states who are low in consumption in the southern part of the country, and we have in the northern part of the country.
Right.
So those states' provisions have been made to also protect them. When you have the consumption system, what it does first is that it removes the controversy about the headquarters system, because it's a controversial issue.
Yeah.
Now you solve it.
And let's face it, it's an unfair system.
naturally,
Yeah.
Some states will say, so now what is our fate? But don't forget, everybody was arguing few months ago, last year, previously, 5 years ago, that the headquarters system should be abolished.
Right.
Because they are losing resources. So now when you base it on consumption, the bill also recognized that. Then it created an equalization fund where a certain percentage will be put into the fund. So by the time you do the computation based on consumption and underline something, I have always said 60% is not sacrosanct. I will tell you that very clearly. My position has been that we can negotiate it.
Yeah.
When derivation came to the National Assembly, it came at 50%.
Right.
At the end of the day, what did we pass? 13%. Now let me tell you something. If the National Assembly had then refused to pass the derivation law and threw it away, only God knows the crisis that would have erupted. Right. The argument, the debate, everything, just like even institutions that were established, the NDDC, the Northeast Developmental Commission, all these things were necessities, were conversations that emerged, and you cannot sweep it under the carpet. The VAT is one of such a...
right. Well, let me move this on, because the point you've made is that there needs to be further discussion, deeper discussion, which is one of the reasons why the National Economic Council said, you know, remove the bill, you know, let people calm down and let there be further consultation in order to educate them about what the bill is. Do you agree that it can be taken out and then returned at some point after consultation?
You know, there is a process of how a state is governed, and there is a process on how the National Assembly it's run. We have different ways of operations. In the National Assembly, you bring in a bill, it goes through first reading, it goes through second reading, then it goes through public hearing.
Yeah.
Our consultation in the National Assembly is during the public hearing.
Right.
So
there's no need to
what the
withdraw,
governors want
right.
is exactly within the framework of the rules of the House of Representatives of the National Assembly.
Right.
When it gets to the public hearing, the governors will come, their representatives will come and make their point known.
Right. Okay.
Everybody, civil society, the states that believe they are not taking enough, everyone can come and make his point.
Okay.
And that is when the House will sit down, look at all the facts and the information it's gotten, and be able to prepare its report back to the House.
But how much pressure are members of the House of Reps, how much pressure have they been under from governors, for instance, and other political leaders who do not support these bills? Because we're hearing that some governors have warned that any House of Reps members from their states who supports the bill will not get a second term ticket. Is that a fact?
Well, correct. I have heard that a couple of governors have actually passed
essentially threatened their people.
the message. No, I don't want to use the word threatened. The governor is a leader in a state, and it is normal if he feels in a particular way about an issue, he will be able to communicate to his members. But some of us senior members of the House, we've also passed a message to some the governors as well, that the way you go about it is not to just tell the members that don't pass the bill. You will help the members, you will help the National Assembly, you will help the country, and also giving a well-analyzed presentation that shows how the bill will impoverish the North,
right.
Not just making a generalized statement that this bill is against the North.
Which is more of an emotional reaction.
Let me tell you something very interesting. Now, even at the moment, the Northeast Development Commission is getting 3% of VAT. Now, if you throw away the bill and the case in the court succeeds, everything goes away.
Right.
Everything goes away.
But it's interesting.
So you see, that is why I said,
I understand what you mean.
If you will make a case for this bill, or you make an opinion, you have to look at the entire eco
Okay, I want to get to a number of things quickly because, I mean, I don't want to just talk to you about, tax. I mean, you're such an interesting person. There are a lot of other angles. But I mean, before we go, I mean, it's interesting that even in your own party, the NNPP, I understand that your principal, Rabiu Kwankwaso, opposes that bill, but you support it. I mean, how do you square that?
I don't know if he has said something about the bill. I don't know if you
well,
have...
we've seen public pronouncements that suggest that he doesn't support the bill.
No, I have not read it. I have not read it.
Well, it's in
Newspapers.
newspapers.
No, I'm being honest with you. I haven't seen it. And you see, look, it is normal for a political party to take a position, for an individual to take a position, for a caucus in the National Assembly to take a position, for governors to take a position. But again, it is also important for the conversation to go on. For the conversation to go on and for us to be able to dissect it based on fact, to see the merits and the demerit. But
I think you're right.
No
question.
I will tell you this, and I kept saying these things. A lot of the provisions in these bills were things that even the National Assembly has been promoting for years.
Right.
I would recall vividly as chairman finance, the young man now chairing Federal Inland Revenue wasn't the person who started most of this single window collection of taxes and levies, a lot of reforms to expand the tax base without really hurting the people and the rest. Now look at some other very beautiful clauses. Do you know that food, education, health, even rent, food, education, health, zero VAT. Nobody's talking. Why are people not talking about that? Even rent, you can have exemption in it.
Yeah, but obviously
then also understand, everybody that is within the threshold of minimum wage is completely exempted.
Right.
97%, that's almost 100% of medium, small and medium scale businesses are exempted.
Right.
So,
but they have to pay. They have to pay VAT and then
Charles,
reclaim it. I just need to clarify that.
You see, Charles.
So it's not like
you see, Charles.
They have to justify the reclaim.
It's important I make this point. A lot of good initiatives were put in that, and you should ask yourself, how come for years we have not had people of courage to come up with such reforms? No any bill that has ever passed the National Assembly that has been 100%. Without amendment, without discussions,
you've made that
without
point,
consultation.
We have to
in a very sane
move on
climate,
very quickly.
The young man in Federal Inland Revenue would have earned an Oscar.
Right. We have to move on very quickly because we've literally got a minute or two left because this tax thing has taken up a lot of the time. But let's look at your party, the NNPP. There's been a lot of division and, sort of toing and froing within the NNPP. What's going on there now, briefly?
No, well, there's nothing going on. It's normal. In every political party, you'll have crisis.
Well, you guys keep saying normal. It's not normal for a party to be
normal to the extent
tearing itself apart.
Within a context, normal within a certain context. When I say normal, it actually means the PDP are having their own crisis, the Labour Party they're having their own crisis.
That doesn't make your problems easier.
It's power tussle. And I can assure you that even in the APC, has its own problem. Even this bill has actually exposed the internal problem of the APC, because the question you should ask yourself is that we shouldn't be talking about this, because even in the National Assembly, the APC has majority. So why are you even having a problem? It tells you that even the APC has a problem. I was even just discussing it with one of the young men in forefront of trying to get the bill passed, Jimmy Benson. I was actually telling him that, look, this actually shows that the APC has internal crisis. Yeah, but because everybody has gone quiet.
But if
it is issue of board appointment, all of them will be at the villa.
But they wouldn't describe it as an internal crisis. They'll simply, there's a difference of opinion on a particular subject. That's different from a party that is falling apart at the seams, that's breaking apart. Essentially, people attacking each other, going to court to say, remove these people, put these people. That's a completely different thing from people arguing about tax reforms.
But that's what I'm telling you, that every party has its own fair share of crisis going on, and in the case of NNPP, we will surmount it.
Well,
the point I've just tried to make to you is that...
I'm just trying to get to things before we have to go.
Okay.
The reason I'm saying that is that there was a lot of hope placed on parties like the NNPP, the PDP, Labour Party. There was even talk of some sort of alliance going towards 2027. But that alliance looks like it's just not going to happen, is it? With all these divisions.
Well, even though the circumstances are different now, if I try to compare it with the build-up to the 2015 presidential election, I do not see the intensity. I do not see the unity of purpose. It's a possibility, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot of sacrifice. It takes a lot of putting aside ambition to unify within a particular purpose before ambition comes in place. I haven't seen a lot of that. But again, as a politician, there is so much time. A politician will tell you 24 hours. It's so much time. I actually believe there's so much the time for
I hope you won't stay away and you'll come back and talk to us again, because we've literally had to drag you kicking and screaming into the studio.
I will not shy away, particularly when there are big issues that I believe that if we look at it, if we sit down and discuss, if we negotiate, it is in the interest of the country.
Well, don't shy away, because you're very articulate, and we always prefer it when someone who can actually put the points succinctly and clearly comes in to talk to us. So thank you for coming in. And Abdulmumin Jibrin is a member of the House of Representatives. He's a NNPP chieftain, former chairman of the House Committee on Finance, Appropriations, Transport and Foreign Affairs, and is currently chairman of the House Committee on Housing and Habitat. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Good to see you
so much, even though the 30 minutes wasn't
well, I mean,
so much to say.
So much to say.